Hello everyone, I greet you in the name of God Almighty. My name is Apostle Nathan Silas, and today we have a very interesting video to react to by Douglas Murray. And then this one says that Douglas Murray calmly obliterate angry Muslim professor with fact, and this one will have to do with both Israel and then also Palestine for some of the things that is currently happening. So if today happens to be the first time of you checking out my channel, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on my Facebook and Instagram. And guys, without any further ado, let's get down to this video and check this out.
The present situation is that Israel builds bunkers in which its civilians have to shelter from rocket fire from the Hamas. The Hamas builds bunkers and hides its rockets in it and then puts civilians on top of those bunkers. That is a terrorist organization.
That is an organization that has no respect.
That is an organization that has no respect for human lives, not Palestinian lives and not Israeli lives.
You are about to watch one of the most heated debates on the current Middle Eastern conflict. Douglas Murray is always ready for these kinds of encounters, and in this video, he demonstrates why he is one of the most feared debaters alive today. Douglas Murray did not hold back.
Barack Obama said this. He said if someone was sending rockets into my house, where my two daughters sleep at night, I'm going to do everything in my power to stop that, and I would expect Israelis to do the same thing.
I mean, that's quite true, but the point is we need to understand how the situation has come about. We seem obsessed with the current situation. We need to understand how Israel came into being. You know, we can debate here from now until doomsday about what's happening today, but we need to understand what has created the situation. How many of us know about the Hussein McMahon correspondence? How many of us know about the Sykes-Picot Agreement? How many of us know about the Balfour Declaration? All of them are duplicitous agreements that brought about the state of Israel.
But we are where we are.
Yeah, and to call Hamas a terrorist organization, what is the Stalag, the Irgun, and the Haganah? How many of us know this? You see, we only know one side of the narrative. It's easy for people to say that Hamas is a terrorist organization, yet they were democratically elected. I might not like them. In fact, I don't agree with Hamas a lot of the time, but I cannot say this is terrorist. How come one person's terrorist and another person's freedom fighter?
Andrew Murray.
Douglas Murray is about to offer a much-needed response in a moment, but let's firstly highlight something important from the Muslim professor's argument. The reluctance to acknowledge Hamas as a terrorist organization and attempting to divert the conversation to other groups that are not relevant to the conversation is clearly evident. Hamas has been designated as a terrorist organization by several countries and international entities due to its activities, including suicide bombings, rocket attacks, and other forms of violence targeting civilians. The evidence supporting this categorization is extensive and includes attacks on civilian populations, kidnappings, and the use of human shields, which violate international law and principles of armed conflict.
Well, it's not the case that they're freedom fighters. The first thing that Hamas did when they were allegedly elected was to kill their co-religionists in the Gaza, was to throw people off buildings, to shoot people in the back when they're running away. This is what the Hamas do to their own co-religionists in the Gaza, to other Palestinians. So the first thing is that Hamas not only inflict terror on the people of Israel, they also inflict it on other Palestinians. It's for the Palestinian peoples, as the rabbi said, to try to overthrow this terrorist organization. An organization which fights, if I may just finish. Well, an organisation which fulfills every...
Come off it.
Well, I don't know what else you call an organisation which has killed hundreds of it.
What was the Irgun? What was the Haganah?
Well, the Irgun and the Haganah are not operating at the moment.
No, but what were they?
Well, they were terrorist organisations at the time. But I would say that we're talking about what's happening at the present. And the present situation is that Israel builds bunkers in which its civilians have to shelter from rocket fire from the Hamas. The Hamas builds bunkers and hides its rockets in it and then puts civilians on top of those bunkers. That is a terrorist organisation.
That is an organisation that has no respect. David and Goliath struggle.
That is an organisation that has no respect for human lives, not Palestinian lives and not Israeli lives.
F-16s?
Douglas Murray is right again on this one. One of the most cited pieces of evidence for Hamas's designation as a terrorist organization is its use of suicide bombers targeting Israeli civilian populations, a tactic that has been condemned internationally. The idea that Israel is like Goliath in the Middle East is also a faulty one that deserves to be highlighted. This analogy is frequently used to evoke a simplistic view of an aggressor versus a victim. However, this portrayal ignores the geopolitical and historical complexities of the region. Israel, a nation-state established in the aftermath of the Holocaust, has found itself in a constant state of existential threat from its inception in 1948. The country is geographically small, surrounded by nations and entities that have, at various times, expressed hostility towards its very existence. Moreover, Israel's military strength, often cited as evidence of its Goliath-like status, is a necessity for survival rather than a tool for aggression. Israel's security measures, including its military capabilities, are as responses to decades of conflict, including multiple wars initiated by coalitions of neighboring states, ongoing terrorism, and rocket attacks. Douglas Murray also highlights a fundamental obstacle to peace in the region, the stated aim within the Hamas Charter for the destruction of Israel. The Charter, which outlines the principles and objectives of Hamas, calls for the establishment of an Islamic State in place of Israel. This explicit goal of eradication presents an insurmountable barrier to any peace negotiations predicated on mutual recognition and coexistence. This point underscores a critical issue. Peace processes are inherently based on the premise that both parties have a genuine interest in achieving peace. When one side's foundational document negates the other's right to exist, the basic premise for negotiation and compromise is undermined. This situation is further complicated by Iran.
When Israel risks, like in 2006, having 1 million of its civilians having to live under threat of rocket fire, this is something which should be beyond its concern about what European governments think or don't think. You mentioned earlier about the huge number of civilian casualties. I can't think of another situation in war in which a fifth of casualties are civilian, and in which the Hamas have suffered up till now perhaps as many as 400 casualties. 400 terrorists being killed seems to me to be good work. It's good work for the future of Israel. It's good work for the future of the region.
Upwards of 75 children have been killed. You can't call them terrorists.
No, I didn't call them terrorists. I said they were innocent civilians. But that 4 times that number of people being killed, the targeted people being killed, are terrorists, and they have been killed. And that can only be good for the region. It can only be good for Israeli security. And if the Arab world really cares about the Palestinian peoples, why doesn't it do something for them practical? Instead of whining about this tiny slither of land which Israel occupies, why don't they realise that if there's going to be peace in the region, it relies on there being a Palestinian solution, and it relies on there being an Israeli solution? That can happen, but the first thing that has to happen is that the Arab governments and the Palestinians realise that Israel isn't going anywhere. If they made that realisation, why would they be firing rockets into Israel proper? This isn't disputed territory. They're firing rockets into Israel.
Douglas Murray's argument regarding the refusal of other Arab nations to absorb Palestinian refugees and the continuous launch of rockets into Israel underscores a broader narrative about the motivations behind the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the role of the wider Arab world in it. Since the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, which followed the establishment of the State of Israel, millions of Palestinians have been living as refugees in various Arab countries. Notably, in many of these host countries, Palestinians have been kept in a state of permanent refugee status rather than being integrated into the societies of their host countries. This policy has implications for the Palestinian identity, perpetuating a sense of displacement and grievance that fuels the conflict with Israel. By refusing integration and keeping the refugee issue alive, these countries use the plight of the Palestinians as both a rallying cry against Israel and a means to deflect attention from their own internal challenges. This stance has contributed to the enduring nature of the conflict, as it has prevented the emergence of a Palestinian diaspora that is integrated into the broader Arab world, which could have potentially shifted the dynamics of the conflict. Achieving peace in the Middle East requires a nuanced approach that addresses the legitimate security concerns of Israel, the political and humanitarian needs of the Palestinians, and the destabilizing roles played by external actors. It involves confronting and challenging ideologies that glorify violence and reject coexistence, whether they emanate from within Israel, Palestinian territories, or the broader region.
Well, that's a very interesting video, listening to Dr. Taj and then also Douglas Murray concerning the solution to Israel and then the Palestine conflict. You know, Douglas pointed out some certain things, you understand, in this very video, which I think that they are very, very important. If maybe probably we will not use emotions in analyzing some of these things. Well, to whatever we see, if it's gonna make any difference, I do not know, because I feel it may not really make much impact. But then, just like how Douglas Murray he says that when the Israel are building a bunker, of course, they just build a place that they can kind of maybe hide themselves if there is maybe a counter attack or if there is an attack. But then the Hamas, in the other way around, they build a bunker in the places that there is civilians. So if there is such maybe an attack or something like that, then it end up, you understand, affecting, you understand, the civilians. And that's one of the reasons why people, you understand, are dying. And then I could make a reference whereby a hospital, you understand, was attacked, you understand, in Palestine. And then we heard that there was actually a bunker beneath, you understand, the hospital. And that was the reason why, you understand, the hospital was attacked by airstrike. So in the process of that, you understand, end up endangering the civilians that were actually in the hospital. I am not saying that the Israeli were right, you understand, by doing so, but then in the other way around, they were trying to maybe probably cause, you understand, pain and havoc to the Hamas. But then one thing that I really want to I don't really understand about some of these things is the Israeli fighting the Palestinians or they are fighting Hamas? I think that we're supposed to create maybe probably try to understand, you understand, what the Palestinians stand for and what Hamas, you understand, stand for, so that let's just really understand this, whether Israeli are actually fighting Palestine or they are actually fighting Hamas. Because from the video you got to realize that Hamas, you understand, has been designated as a terrorist organization. But then them being designated, I do not know if they have been designated by the Palestinian government or they were designated as a terrorist organization by the international community. I think that if we're able to know some of these things, then I think that probably the Palestinian, you understand, government could have been the one to at least, you understand, maybe kind of expose some of the terrorists that are in between them, so that can be able to help to solve some of these problems of civilians, you understand, being killed. Because if you look at it in the other way around, all these things, you understand, has been happening and innocent people, you understand, are being killed. I do not know if maybe probably part of the terrorists, if they are being killed at the cost of some of the strike or not. Because if you look at, in a sense, some of the news that we keep, you understand, receiving by some of the mainstream media, you bear with me that it is civilians, you understand, that always, in a sense, fall casualty of some of these happenings between Israel and Palestine. Now, if you look at how all these things, in a sense, is happening, I think that Iran, in the other way around, kind of feel this kind of, or should I say, they make an emotional decisions, therefore end up, you understand, attacking, you understand, Israel, maybe probably in order to maybe help the Palestinians, since, you understand, the Palestinians happens to be a Muslim, you understand, nation, or should I say they are Muslim, so they feel like maybe probably that's the way forward. And then the other way around, now there's actually an counter attack by Israeli that is as of today. All right, and then if you look at, in doing all these things, you understand, many people are going to lose their lives. And that's the reason why we always say that in war, everybody lose, nobody win in war, because war are mostly based on ideologies. So now when you look at, in all these things, this one killed this one went on to do counter, and then at the end of the day, where does these things, you understand, leave us? And then that's the reason why I am saying that if maybe probably, of course, we could be, you understand, a very religious, you understand, bodies, and then we could look at what Hitler do. We can't say that because of Hitler, you understand, was Germany, and probably, should I say, he's a Christian and all that, then let's attribute whatever Hitler do by killing the Jews as him being a Christian. Or let's say the Crusaders, you understand, they end up, you understand, that they were killing the Jews. So let's assume that they work for the Christians, and then we could say that for some of the activities of the Hamas, they do it for the Muslim. We don't have to say that they did it for the Muslim, because there are so many Muslims that may not support some of this thing that is happening. Likewise, some of the Jews, there are some of them who does not support, you understand, the Zionists, you understand, Jews being led by Netanyahu, that is end up, you understand, ordering strike all the time. If you interview some of the Jews, you realize that it's not everyone that support some of these things. But then at the end of the day, the best solution is to at least have a two-state, you understand, agreement where Palestine, you understand, can be seen as its own sovereign state. Likewise, you understand, the Israel, because all these things that I said is happening, a lot of innocent people, you understand, are being killed, you understand, at the cause of it. And then it does not bring any, in a sense, solution to anything, because that's how they'll keep killing. This one will regroup, someday they'll go attack and all those things. Now, as Israel and Iran have decided to start engaging, each other, I do not know how these things will finally, end up. But then we just pray for God's grace, and then we'll pray that he can be able to like bring peace, understand, in between these two nations. So this is the end of my video. If you like my reaction, you should like, share, and subscribe. If you have any video you want me to react to, don't forget to drop it at the comment section and I'm going to check it out. So guys, you remain blessed and I see you in my next video. Bye bye.